Country music that spans the generations. WBRM 103.9 FM, 1250 AM, W280 FT, Silver McDowell County, Marion, and
92.9 W225BD, Statesville.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. We still have hope, the words of Today's Show co-host Savannah Guthrie in a new video posted to Instagram as the agonizing search for her mother Nancy goes on after more than 2 weeks. DNA from a glove that was found near Nancy Guthrie's home now being analyzed. Authorities want to determine whether it was worn by the masked armed man seen in door cam video on Nancy Guthrie's front porch the night she vanished. President Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, describes as small the security detail he plans to keep in Minnesota. Iranian state media reports Iran's top diplomat has traveled to Geneva, where the second round of nuclear talks with the U.S. will be taking place. An oil tanker linked to Venezuela has been seized by the U.S. military, this in the Indian Ocean. More details, srnnews.com.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher. A lot of us are thinking about taxes, home projects we've been putting off, ways to get ahead financially in 2026. Now's the perfect time to talk to my friends at Fellowship Home Loans. If you want to lower your mortgage payment, they can help you refinance. If you need access to cash for home improvements or to wipe out high-interest debt, their fixed-rate line of credit is one of the best tools out there. Fast approval, predictable rate, and flexibility to use your home's equity wisely. Remember, many people still qualify to skip their next 2 mortgage payments. Imagine starting big projects or paying down debt with 2 months of breathing room. My family and I have used Fellowship personally. I trust these guys. Take control of 2026. Go to fellowshiphomeloans.com/Mike G. fellowshiphomeloans.com/Mike G. fellowshiphomeloans.com/Mike G. Or call 800-510-MIKE. That's 800-510-6453. Fellowship Home Loans. Mortgage lending by the book.
Nationwide Mortgage Bankers. DBA Fellowship Home Loans. Equal Housing Lender. NMLS number 819382. Program is a paid advertisement and does not necessarily represent the views, opinions, or endorsements of Signal Hill Media Partners, its affiliate stations, or its advertisers. Welcome to Taking Care of NC, the program dedicated to exploring the issues, opportunities, and challenges shaping the great state of North Carolina. Join your host, Representative Jeff McNeely, as he delves into meaningful discussions about politics, community initiatives, and the people working to make a difference. Whether it's tackling local concerns, highlighting state achievements, or addressing pressing legislative matters, this show is your go-to source for understanding how North Carolina is growing and thriving. Stay tuned as we kick off another insightful episode of Taking Care of NC.
Good morning, North Carolina. Hope everybody's doing well out there this morning. Got a good show today. We're working through our candidates for Iredell County Commissioner. And today I've got Angela Wokatsch. I gotta make sure I always say Wokatsch correctly. I think I am.
You got it.
Matthews. And glad to have Angela on the show. Angela, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing this morning, Jeff?
Doing all right. It's a nice day today. Rain's
so happy to see the sun and the 60-degree weather for sure.
Exactly.
It's been brutal.
Me too. If it ain't snow, it's been rain, whatever. Yesterday was just a nasty day. That's all I can tell you. Just a nasty day. But glad to have you on here running for county commissioner. So tell us, who is Angela Wokatsch Matthews? Who is she?
So Angela Wokatsch Matthews was born right here in Statesville a few years ago. Not a lot of years ago, but a few years ago. And I've lived here my entire life. I raised my family here, and I've run my small business here for a little over 27 years. It's located in downtown Statesville. I'm a CPA, and so right now we're doing just a lot of tax returns. And something consistent that I'm hearing from most of my clients is just the struggle, the financial struggle that everybody's going through, the cost of living, how everything is inflated, and how salaries and money are not staying pace with the cost to live. So that's the biggest thing. But what I'm also seeing, which is on the positive side of that, is a lot of the tax changes that Trump was able to push through last year. People are getting a lot more money back. So I think they're going to be happy as we go through this tax season. I think people are going to see it. And then they're going to see it even more next year when Social Security isn't taxable.
Well, I'm thinking about starting to draw. I'll be 62. I know I don't look a day over 59.
No way.
But anyway, thinking about, so looking forward to all those benefits, because Lord knows that the previous 4 years of this has been hard, to say the least.
Very hard. And so what I wanted to do before we really jump into the issues is just do a little bit of housekeeping. Sure. I want to, talk about issues head on. I'm not afraid of the truth. So I think it's very important that people hear the truth straight from the horse's mouth. So over the weekend, there were some social media posts by an incumbent candidate, Scotty Brown, that related to my daughter, Abby. And I wanted to talk about how that happened and what happened. And Abby got involved with a person who has some criminal activity, some background that is not agreeable to law enforcement, and has committed a lot of heinous acts against women. And so I noticed some bite marks and bruises on my daughter, and I became concerned. So I did start asking questions, found out this person was a truck driver. And so right now we're in the world of human trafficking, which is very concerning. And so I was very afraid for my daughter because she had met this person on the internet. So I did hire a private investigator, and I did try to do some checking on her so that if something happened to her or the baby, that I would at least know where they are. So I feel like as a mother and a grandmother that we do what we have to protect our kids and our grandkids. And everything that I do for my kids, there's not anything that I regret. And I would do it over and over again if it meant protecting them or saving them from getting hurt. And I think we have a responsibility to try to get our kids back on track. I think that from time to time, young people in general tend to stumble. And
we all do.
We do. And that's what we're here for, right, is to help and not take shots at people. So I just wanted to let everyone know that that is what happened. And those posts to me are very distasteful and unprofessional. And I would have hoped that Mr. Brown would have some compassion in his heart, because I know a couple years ago his daughter was on the wrong track and she actually converted and became a Muslim. And I felt very bad for him and actually prayed for his family that they would get back on track, because I don't want to see any young person hurting or suffering. So I wanted to talk about that quickly. And then I also wanted to talk a little bit about the fact that over the weekend, I think Micah Phelps, the puppet master, he actually endorsed the three incumbents.
Y'all don't know he's a nut. But go ahead.
Absolutely. So he endorsed the three incumbents, which is so comical, actually, because it wasn't that long ago that he was about getting every incumbent out of office, no matter what kind of havoc or chaos it created for the community. So he's actually endorsed the three incumbents. And so I think the voters in Iredell County are much smarter than that. I think that they're not going to follow the advice of somebody that has schizophrenic traits and doesn't work, doesn't produce, doesn't pay taxes, and just constantly wants to create controversy and havoc. So wanted to let everybody know that. I hope that they will do their research on each of the candidates. I'm here for the right reasons. And the last thing I wanted to address was there is a little bit of talk from the county manager, and she is letting some of the county employees know that I plan to come in and fire everybody. And that is absolutely not true. The county commissioners can't fire the county employees. And to be honest, I have dozens of friends and clients who are county employees, and I care deeply about them and their families. So the only person that I could potentially fire, and that would take 3 votes, would be the county manager. So I think those are some tactics that she's using to sort of cover maybe on her own fears or indiscretions or whatever you want to call it. But it's not truthful. And, just like I said before, I'm here to do a job for the voters of Iredell County, for the taxpayers of Iredell County. and wanted to clarify those few points. And now I'm ready to talk about politics.
All right. Well, you've kind of talked a little bit about, the second question, but I think there's something might be a little deeper, so we'll just go ahead and ask it. Why are you wanting to be elected to the office of county commissioner?
So, as I mentioned before, I've got more than 27 years of public accounting experience. I've been doing taxes since I was 14 years old. My dad was a tax accountant here before he retired. And so for many years, even through high school, I worked at his office and started my career at an early age. So it's important for the voters to understand, what does a county commissioner do? And there's really 4 things. So when you're electing a county commissioner, it's almost like a job interview, right? So I'm here today interviewing for a position, and I'm telling everybody why I'm the most qualified candidate. So the county commissioners set the annual tax rate, they approve the annual budget, they hire the county manager, and they do some, board appointments as needed, and maybe hear some zoning issues, a little bit of administrative work. So if we want somebody who knows taxes backwards and forwards, I'm your person. Right. I know, because of my clients who do business in other counties, what other counties are doing and how they're coming up with money, things like that. Currently, I think we've looked at this spreadsheet before, but I wanted to talk about it just for a few minutes, if we could, about the history of Iredell County and where we're at, where we've been. And I think originally, maybe even back in 2018, you might have still been a commissioner.
That was my last real budget. Yep.
So it's interesting when you look at the numbers, $205 million. Now, that was 7 years ago, $205 million. And now in 2025, we're up to $343 million. And that's a big increase. And I get it. Iredell County's growing. 2023, we had our last property revaluation, and that's when you saw the biggest jump in this budget, which was 26%. So we got approximately $50 million in additional monies for property tax revenue, and we spent it. We spent it. Yeah. And so I want to let the voters know that I'm a fiscal conservative, and that's how I run my household. It's how I run my business. It's how I try to advise my clients. Is we have to set limits, right? We have to set priorities. What is the most important thing for our county? What do we have to prioritize? And just because we can get money from our taxpayers doesn't mean we always have to. And like I was talking about a few minutes ago, with people suffering and struggling and trying to decide, do I get to stay in my house? Do I have to eat ham sandwiches every night? Or do I not get to pick up my medicine this month? I think it's important for county commissioners to understand those struggles, right? And to be able to empathize, right? If you're not in that position, it's easy to say, well, we just need more of this, or we just need more of that. But if they had to choose between eating or, staying in their home, I think the perspective might change. So that's what I want to bring to the table is I do the person that makes $10,000 a year on their tax return, and I do the person that makes $5 million on their tax return. And every single one of those people matters. And I think that perspective, applying it to this particular board, there are things that I would like to do different. And I don't think that taxing is always the way to go. Now, that's the easy way to go. That's the lazy way to go. But if you really hustle and get out there, there are other ways that we can get tax revenue. And you and I...
Just revenue. Yeah.
Right. And there's other ways that we can get money into the county. And I always like to talk about occupancy tax, right? Because that's something that I mentioned back, I think, late 2021, 2022. And I was very happy that the legislature was able to do some occupancy tax reform. And I think you guys did a good job. So to explain to people, because some folks were asking me questions last night on social media, what is occupancy tax? It's just not another tax, right, that we're trying to put on our residents. It's what I'd like to call a voluntary tax. And so when you go to the beach or you go to Florida and you stay in a hotel or a motel or Airbnb, it's just an additional tax that they charge for the use of that short-term rental.
Because they're there using utilities, using roads, using whatever when you're in that area. So there's wear and tear involved.
Right,
from
and
people
so they're
staying
contributing.
in your area.
So they're contributing. And so prior to the occupancy tax reform in 2023, the city of Statesville was charging 5%, and that money was being used to fund the operations of the Civic Center. And Mooresville was charging, I believe, 4%. And there were no hotels that I'm aware of that were in Troutman, but I think they were able to charge 2%. So I think overall, the rates went to the maximum that the state allows, which is 6%. And it also included the unincorporated areas, which I think there are about 500 Airbnbs on Lake Norman. So we really are a tourist attraction. And a lot of people don't think that. But I think over, the last decade, a lot of those homes down there have been converted to Airbnbs. So it is another source of revenue for our county, and it's other people's money, right? It's people that are traveling through our county, and any time that we can grab other people's money, that relieves the burden on the people that live here in Iredell County. And that's another reason that I believe, sales tax is the fairest tax, right? Because you can opt. If you don't want to pay it, then you don't purchase the item, right? That's right. So I think my focus will be trying to move away from mandatory taxes and focus more on the voluntary. And I think nationwide, you're starting to see that, right? In Texas in 2031, they won't have property taxes anymore. Florida's right behind them, Pennsylvania and Ohio. And I was reading an article last night that there are already 7 states that we'll see in 2026 that are starting to put caps and limits, especially on retirees, seniors, those on fixed income, veterans, things like that.
100% disabled veterans. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we've got to do something like that, because when inflation and the cost of living are so outpacing their minimal 1 or 2% increases every year, there's going to come a time when the rubber's going to meet the road, right? And we as Americans, we all work hard, and we've been taxed a lot. And with a small business, we pay a lot of taxes. Oh, yeah. And so
I can't afford to hire the tax lawyer to get me out of the taxes. That's my problem. I'm just not big enough. Most of us aren't.
That's it. And I think so your option is, people will say, based on the United States tax code, that it's a voluntary, right? It's a voluntary system. But if you don't voluntarily pay it,
they come and take
then
it.
They're going to go into your bank account and they're going to take it, or they're going to put tax levy on you. And I've seen some tax levies, and I've seen some people who didn't file their tax return for 10 years and pretty much seen it all, almost 3 decades in. But I think overall, if we get a strong economy and we can put more money in people's pockets, they'll have more discretionary money, right? They'll go out, they'll buy things, they'll spend money on things, which will go into the sales tax bucket, right? And so I think if we can kind of change focus from what we always did to the fact that the world is changing, our nation's changing, even our state and county are changing so rapidly, that we've got to have commissioners who have critical thinking skills, who are willing to put in the work, who are willing to step out of the box and say, well, we did do it this way for 50 years, but you know what? I kind of like the fact that other people might be funding some of our services. I like the fact that the occupancy tax might be able to help cover that stadium at Weathers Creek, that the parents, a lot of the parents are upset about, or, build out the fairgrounds. I mean, I think we can do those things. And a lot of people don't understand occupancy tax. And so immediately they just put up the wall and they say, well, hey, I don't want to do that, because I don't understand it. But if we have commissioners who do like I do and take the time to go in, research the issues, look for the options. Another option for revenue streaming is because we're having such a hard time with development and overgrowth and overcrowding here is let's adjust our permitting fees and our inspection fees, right? There's the 2 general statutes that we talked about through the state that allow the county the flexibility to adjust those, right? And we can say, hey, developers, if you want to come here and build, that's fine, but you're going to help us with our infrastructure. And there's a lot of talk about we can't do impact fees, and I know you guys, legislators, get a lot of heat from the public about impact fees. And so I want to let the public know that back in 2016, the House and the Senate both pushed impact fees all the way through.
And got beat in the North Carolina Supreme Court because our Constitution lets us be a land right state. We'll have to do a constitutional change.
So the Supreme Court was controlled by Republicans. A lot of people don't know that. But it was just ruled unconstitutional, right? Yeah. So it got struck down. So we have to find ways around that. So I think, of course, none of my ideas are, a magical fix, right? Or a, complete Band-Aid, but it's a start. And any time that we can get money into our county, I think it's a good thing. Why would we not want to do that?
Well, I agree. So, all right, you've kind of told us a little bit about why, what you think, and maybe you've already really done number 3 too. What do you see as the biggest challenge for Iredell County? We've kind of talked about it. Sounds like, once again, it's growth.
Well, it is growth, and I think that for whatever reason, somebody took a dart and a map of North Carolina, and their dart landed in Iredell County. Everybody wants to build here, and I'm not opposed to growth. I think it's healthy, right? I think when done the right way, it can be a good thing. But I would like to see more of the 60-40. Type of growth where it's 60% residential and it's 40% commercial, because you and I both know that when we have commercial growth, yep, it lowers taxes for everybody. Yep. So I would like to see a little bit of commercial growth.
We got to have it. We got to have commercial. I mean, that's what's going to build schools. That's what's going to do it. They don't require stuff, so we got to have that. That's for sure.
Well, what's going to happen is if we don't put more focus on that, we're going to end up being a county where everybody lives here, but they work somewhere else. Yep. And I don't think that's going to be beneficial for the taxpayers, because when you were on the board in 2018, we were 14th lowest tax rate in the state. And now this year we're tied for 28th lowest. So we're going the wrong way. So I think we just need to adjust and kind of get back in the middle.
Okay. All right. Well, now, like I said, this is a fast 30 minutes, I always say. All right, with roughly $25 million in tax revenue a year coming from the data center, once it's completely built out, so it won't happen all at once, it ain't happening next week, but it will eventually get there, we hope, or that's why it's coming, or we want it. What would you do with this money? What do you see? Because this is kind of a lottery type kind of thing. You hit the lottery. We got a little extra revenue that we hadn't had.
So, of course, just being as tight as I am with money, the first thing that I would want to do is just really give the residents of Iredell County a big tax break. Okay. It's what I do every day. When somebody comes in and I prepare their tax return, I'm looking for every credit. I'm looking for every deduction, anything that we can do to make sure they pay the least amount of tax possible. And that's my job, and I take pride in that. CPAs are held to a very high standard. And a lot of times you'll see me, like today, I've got 10 pages of notes here. And it's just because I'm very meticulous and I want to give people accurate information. I think that, like I said, we're held to that higher standard. So the first thing I would do is really just try to lower the tax rate. And, maybe for a few years, maybe we could, ease into something long term. And that will ultimately, hopefully, lower the cost of living a little bit, adjust it for our county. And then I want to take a look at emergency services. And something that I didn't know about until a couple weeks ago was that we only have 2 ambulances in Mooresville. And I don't know if you guys knew that. And there's a lot of people down there. Mm. And 150...
County staff. Yep,
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, you think about that, and then you kind of think about the traffic and how hard it is to kind of get through there. So I want to look at that and make sure we're adequately prepared for emergencies, both police, fire, EMS. They're here to protect us, and I want to make sure that they have the resources that they need. And lastly, I want to talk about education, because, there are some people in the Republican Party who are just anti-funding education. They think it's just a waste of money. But I see it a little bit differently. I think our children are our future, and what we put into them is what we're going to get back, right?
When they have a workforce.
We do. And so it is important. I like textbooks. I love technology and computers. I think they're great. But I'm old school, and I like the textbooks, even if, they just have them, in the classroom. So I would like to make sure that we're adequately funding our education. Also, I think our teachers are struggling. We're pretty low in the state, and definitely as a state in the nation, on what we pay our teachers. So something that was taken away, I think about 15 years ago, was the teacher supplement, right? And so people are like, well, how are you going to do that? You're going to have to raise taxes. But here's what I was thinking about before Christmas. I went through the list of open positions for the county, and I added them all up. It's about 60 open positions that might have been vacant for 6 months, some of them more than a year. And I added up the pay for each of those positions, and it was about $2 million. So if you go back and you do the teacher supplement, we have 1,278 teachers in the district. It'd be, roughly $1.3 million, and we could do that. And think about the morale, right, for the teachers, and they would feel appreciated, because the buck kind of stops there, right? They're in the classroom, and we want to retain the best, just like we want to retain the best as far as police, emergency services, and fire. We've got to do the same thing for our teachers, and so you have to take that into consideration. So those are my 3 priorities if we get that money. And even before we get the money, the teacher part, I think we can go ahead and do that now.
All right. Our last question, because we're getting down here about 4 or 5 minutes. Since county commissioners don't really have a say in annexation, would you be willing to support House Bill 348? And we've kind of talked about it before. I've talked with everybody that's running about this because of this question, and I've talked to them some before the question ever came. And basically, it gives the county commissioners a say in annexation, a yes or no vote, if it's going to overcrowd the schools in that particular area where the annexation goes. How do you feel about that?
So I read the bill a couple times, and this one touches really close to home for me. So, yes, I would definitely support it. I am completely for ending annexations outside the ETJ, period. I believe that we should only release ETJ for commercial growth, right? And I'll tell you my story real quick, because I probably could sit here for a couple hours and talk about this. But I live off Wallace Springs Road, and that used to be so rural and country. And my little guy Camden talked at the city council meeting because, it touches him. That's his childhood home. It's the only place he's ever lived. And now to look at it, it's just different. And so my neighbors and I, the first couple developments, okay, I understand people need a place to live, and it's okay, but I'm R20. That's what my property is zoned, and all my neighbors are R20. And Hidden Lakes came in, and then the D.R. Horton development came in, and then they tried to do a sprawl development called the Erie Road Project, which didn't even touch the city limits or an annexation. It's further out, and it's actually in between Erie Road and Buffalo Shoals Road. And so we were against that, right? Because the traffic, the last traffic study, which was done in 2022, we had almost a 300% increase in traffic. And if you've driven down Wallace Springs Road, it's a country farm road. And if you look at the schools, South Iredell, 120% capacity, or 110, I'm sorry. Troutman Elementary is the 120% capacity, and then Troutman Middle is at capacity. So where are those kids going to go to school? Or
in what kind of building?
Yeah, and how are we going to get them there? And if the roads are so congested, it's just impacts quality of life, right? And it's impacted my quality of life. And it used to be I could come out the end of my neighborhood, look real quick, and pull out. And now you better not do that because somebody's coming, from the left over that hill, and you're going to get hit. So definitely I support the commissioners having a say in that, because you have the municipalities who are making these decisions and allowing these annexations, but then the county is required to build the schools and sort of cover the infrastructure, right? And the services part of it. So, and right now I'm just going to say this because I had it in my notes, but a lot of our local boards, cities included, county board, and our legislatures, we have to learn to work together so that we know, the right hand knows what the left hand is doing. And so that's what I want to bring to the table too, is a way that we can all work together to do what's best for Iredell County. And for whatever reason, even the school board, everybody seems to be on their own little island, right? And communication is just almost non-existent. So I definitely would branch out and make sure that we all were on the same page, because these decisions affect a lot of people. And I don't think that, one person's perspective is a tell-all for the 200,000 plus people that are here.
Well, I truly believe on a rotational basis, one commissioner ought to be at every Mooresville, Statesville, even Harmony for that matter, meeting at some time, and so they know what's going on and bring it back instead of reading about it in one of the papers or on a blog or whatever. So I think it's critical. We're getting down here to the end, Angela. Got a lot of info out of you. All right, if you will, give us a 1-minute speech why people should vote for you.
Sure. So, like we spoke about earlier, I think I'm going to sort of just do a quick summary.
That's fine.
County commissioners, they collect and disperse county taxes. As a CPA, I do taxes every single day. So, again, I'm the most qualified candidate for the job. Voters, I hope that you'll, do your homework and you'll pick the person that's going to keep, the most money in your pocket. I'm going to run the county like a business. I think sometimes bureaucrats, their goal is to grow government, right? And back in 23-24, Iredell County added 108 positions. I don't know if everybody knows that. So when your taxes went up after the 2023 revow, we added 108 positions. And that's a lot of positions.
That's a bunch.
And that's a lot of money. So, I want small government. I think our country was founded on principles where there was minimal government involvement in our lives. We lived our lives. We paid in enough so that we had the emergency services that we needed. But I think over time, government's just lost focus on what it's supposed to be doing for the people. We all have brains and we all have common sense. And I think for the most part, we can make our own decisions. We might make mistakes, but we can make our own decisions. So I think less government is definitely better. I've told just about everybody that I've talked to that I'm not gonna vote for a tax increase. I'm just not gonna do it. I think that over time, just for me, my taxes have gone up, and I pretty much pay tax on the money that I earn. I pay sales tax when I buy stuff. I pay tax on the stuff that I own, and it's just like, wow.
And when you die, if you make enough, we're coming to see you.
About 45%, of everything that you make, if you added it all up, is in taxes. And so I think, Trump's, on the same path. Like, I think he gets it. I think that people are tired of being taxed. And I think a strong economy will allow us, that flexibility to not have to focus so much on taxing.
Well, Angela, I appreciate you coming in. Good luck out there with your campaign. I hope all goes well. And look forward to seeing you on the campaign trail. Seems
Absolutely.
like where I'm at, you show up, and vice versa. Just keep playing in the same ponds.
It's a lot of events.
That's right. All right, folks, stay tuned. We're coming back for the second half of the show. I'll take some calls. All right.
Kids across America are going to school hungry. Millions of kids every day. But One simple thing can help change all of this for a hungry child in America. Good, healthy food and the energy it brings. With help from caring people across America, No Kid Hungry is providing healthy meals and hope to hungry kids so they can build better futures. To learn more about ending child hunger in America, go to helpnokidhungry.org today.
We all want more for North Carolina. More boundless views, more adventures in the outdoors, and more clean roads to get there. But to get more, we have to do less. Less littering, that is. Make it your nature to trash your trash and keep NC clean. And we'll all have more reasons to love North Carolina. Litter less, get more. For more on the 7 outdoor NC Leave No Trace principles, visit OutdoorNC.com. Sponsored by the North Carolina Association of Broadcasters and Visit North Carolina, a part of the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina in cooperation with this station.
We all play a role in keeping our community safe.
Every day, we move in and out of each other's busy lives.
It's easy to take for granted all the little moments that make up our everyday.
Some are good, others not so much.
But that's life.
It's when something doesn't seem quite right that it's time to pay attention.
Because only you know what's not supposed to be in your everyday.
So protect your everyday.
If you see something suspicious, say something to local authorities.
Bravo, Brenda. You've always been a saver. Price matching your price matches. The self-proclaimed queen of extreme couponing. But this time, you've truly outdone yourself. By saving for this electric vehicle, you're locking in up to $1,000 a year in fuel and maintenance savings, which will leave you saying, cha-ching, every time you unplug. Good for your wallet, great for the planet. That's the power of EV. Sponsored by the NC Clean Energy Technology Center and the North Carolina Association of Broadcasters in cooperation with the station.
All right, folks, back here with the second half of the show. Hey, we're going to go back to our old format today. We'll take calls, and I'm going to tell you different things that I see going on out there like I have in the past. I decided it was time to hear some people. I hadn't took calls in 3 or 4 weeks now or more just because of weather and having all the candidates I can get in so y'all can hear them. So anybody out there wants to talk to me, 704-873-9929. Love to hear from you, hear what you got on your mind. Early voting is going on. It's wide open right now. So get out there and vote. I think it's from 8 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock at night, weekdays. And then there's voting on this coming Saturday, maybe the next 2 Saturdays if I do my math. And we're off the Monday right before Election Day, which will be March 2nd, Election Day, March 3rd. So don't forget, there's actually a primary going on, and it's very important that you get out and vote. So don't forget it. Real quick, before I get into a lot of my stuff, a good friend of mine who has suffered mightily for probably the last 8 months or more now, Ron Wyatt. A lot of you knew him as Duck. Ron had been a little bit of everything, sheriff's deputy, been the town mayor of Troutman, then register of deeds here in Iredell County, then the town manager of Troutman, and a friend of mine. And really known Duck ever since we was back in Little League. I think, if I remember right, the first thing Duck ever said to me is my mom was in the crowd, and I was coming up to bat, and she was hollering for me to get a hit, and Duck was catching, and he had a smart mouth back then, just like always. And he said, I sure hate to see your mama cry when you strike out 3 times a day. And Duck was a little pudgy, and I said, shut up, fat boy. That's what 13-year-olds do when they're in the game playing. So anyway, kind of friendship went from there and got really close over the last 10 years because got more involved in politics. And Duck was our party chair of the Republican Party here in the county for a while. And he was with me when I went and we visited Rena Turner, and she informed us that she was no longer going to be our representative. She was going to retire. And she and I had talked with Rena at different times, and we're sitting in her office, and she said, boys, I just want to let you know I'm done. And, you know, being naive like I am, I said, oh, okay. And I looked over at Duck, and I looked back at Rena, and I said, now, this exactly what does that mean? And she goes, well, if somebody here in this room thinks they want this, it's about time they step up. And Duck punched me as hard as he could. He was sitting to my left, in my left arm, about knocked me out of the chair. And in that fleeting 2 seconds or milliseconds, I went, okay, I'm in. And that was even before I talked to my wife about it. So Duck knew about it before, and Duck was a whole lot easier to sell, me trying to get this position, than my wife was. And we talked about it on the way home, what all we got to do and everything. And he backed me all the time and went down and watched me get sworn in. And I don't know, just we've hunted together. We've done a lot together. Don't know what to tell you, but I'm going to miss him. But he suffered so much. He went in for heart transplant, or not heart transplant, but heart bypass surgery, and it just went downhill and never really was able to get anywhere close to out of the hospital. And I think he just got tired and was ready to go meet his maker. And so I'm sure right now he's up there in heaven in a duck blind, and if they let you shoot animals up there, he's knocking them out of the sky. So we miss you, Duck. Take care, brother. Hey, and like I said, if anybody wants to call in, talk about whatever, 704-873-9929. It is primary season, and the primaries are getting really interesting here. This March 2026 coming up. At least 24 Democrats have filed as Republicans to primary incumbent Republicans in the House and the Senate. Don't know, man, there's a lot down ballot. I'm sure that have done the same thing. And it's funny, I know a lot of Republicans have been watching the voter registrations over this past year or two from the last election thinking, hey, people are really starting to believe in conservative ways and in smaller government and less taxes and all these great things. We're actually got more Republicans now than we do Democrats registered. Maybe. I ain't so sure this is playing out like we think it is. And I think there's a lot of party switching so they can vote in Republican primaries. But yet they still kind of don't feel the same way we do. And I know some of the part of the group is calling themselves educators on the ballot. So there's about a half a dozen teachers, registered Democrats that switched right before the deadline so they could be Republicans to run. And some of them are running against well-known representatives. One of them's running against Mitchell Setzer, who serves Catawba and part of Iredell. He got a couple precincts of mine when we grew too big there in the 2020 census, and Mitchell's been down there for about 30 years. So they're not just picking on the easy prey; they're going after whatever. And I think Mitchell will be all right because Mitchell does a great job. But yet, it's still a primary. He's going to have to battle, and then I'm sure there's somebody in the file that he'll have to do it again. And so be looking at this real close. Got a caller? We'll take it. Hey, this is Representative Jeff McNeely. Who we got?
Scott.
Hey, Scott. How are you?
I'm blessed.
I think I know this Scott if he talks more, but I'm getting it.
A little bit.
Yeah. What you got going on this morning? You must be on the ground.
Your previous guest.
Yes. Let's be nice, but let's say what you got to say.
Well, she talks about taxes.
Yep.
Okay. She deals in income taxes. She might deal in property taxes when it comes to deductions or itemized deductions for somebody to have a discount on their income taxes, but it doesn't mean that she knows what property taxes and valuations and things like that would end up being. She's in the income tax business. So she can use the term taxes, doesn't necessarily mean that she has a skill level above anybody else. Now, you served on the county commission. And I don't remember you served on the county commissioner with your brother-in-law, maybe
I came right after.
Okay. So you can tell me that you actually, from the totality of the budget control as a county commissioner, actually about 10 to 12% of the money that's spent. Others are mandated, be it education, be it health and human services, fire, safety, police, whatever the case may be. So really in control of that totality of the budget, how much would you say that you had?
Well, we like to use the term reoccurring and non-reoccurring. And there's a lot that is reoccurring. Unless you're willing to reduce people's salaries, then you're on you're stuck with that salary level, at least at where it's at.
Sure.
raises, that's where you come in to decide whether you want to take more of your non-reoccurring money and put it into reoccurring money. And reoccurring money is basically, I'm promising pretty much from this point to go forward with at least this much, if not more. And so it gets tricky. But, yeah, the non-reoccurring money, the actual money that you can, I hate to use the word play with because this is everybody's livelihoods and tax dollars, but it's what you can move around. That's about all you got. And a lot of it, you are mandated from either the federal or the state government.
And you have no control.
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough.
So if you look at this, scale of increase in, number one, property taxes, and I own property, and that I pay those taxes, and I try to defer those taxes as best I can. But the fact of the matter is the services are provided, so they have to be paid for. But if you look at this 10-year scale that's been on the internet about how the increase in taxes collected and taxes spent, where's the parallel with that with the growth in the county, the number of people? Are we allotting a certain amount of the county budget per person, per capita, to say that, there was an increase? And you and I both know that there was a time when there were a huge number of conservatives on the county board, and there was some economic challenges in 2021, where spending was held back. So when the educated voter goes out and looks at some of this propaganda that's on Facebook, when you look at the increase in spending, how about looking at the increase in inflation caused by Biden? And you and I both know that.
I know.
But also caused by the growth in the population. We got some really strong Republicans out there beating the band about, changing out who's in the leadership. And some of those folks that have radio shows are talking about all this, they're the ones that have profited from this growth. And I will tell you that some of the dysfunction caused on the Iredell County School Board is caused by your previous guest who's running for county commissioner, because she sat in the audience and harassed her daughter, who was duly elected to the board. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate all you do, Jeff.
All right, brother. You take care.
Thank you, Buck.
Hey, one thing I will say to what he said there, one way we work the state budget, and I think it's good because it gives you some consistency, is called Tabor. And it's the rule of Tabor, and Tabor basically is inflation plus population percentage growth. And so I think when you have a formula, then people get a pretty good idea of what's coming next. And I think that's the big problem I hear with a lot of people. The taxes took a big jump because of the valuations of their houses, land, and everything. It went up. Tabor would help with that, in my opinion, to know where you're going to be in the next year, in the year after, possibly in the year after. It's hard to forecast population growth, but you can get an idea from looking back, looking forward, and get an idea kind of where inflation is. We went through 4 years of heck to get to where we're getting it back in line. So that may be something we think about on the county level, to give more consistency so people can kind of plan. Because I think the worst thing that happens is the tax bill shows up, and either next thing you know, your mortgage is up a couple $100 a month because it's in your escrow, or you get that bill there right about Thanksgiving, and it makes you hard to be thankful to a point. Because next thing you know, well, darn, my taxes look like they about doubled. Or what happened? And 27 is going to bring about that same cry again if we're not prepared. And I'll just leave it at that. So anyway, getting back to it, it's kind of funny. It may end up looking about doing closed primaries where only Republicans can vote instead of unaffiliated. Don't know if that'll fix the problem. That may not happen. I watched quite a few people I know change parties or change from Democrat to unaffiliated when I ran last time in a primary, and some of them were in the Democrat leadership. I thought was kind of interesting to a point. So things are up. It's hard. I do know this. The Democrats have officially dropped their 2 different lawsuits over our North Carolina congressional redistricting maps that they were complaining about, saying it was unfair. So, a good example is Katie Barr, who is an extreme liberal, running against a friend of mine. Now he's congressman, was the former Speaker of the House, District 14, Tim Moore. And she's actually put signs out saying lower taxes and her name, Katie Barr, underneath it, but said in an interview that she would never lower taxes. So, folks, once again, do we sue her for false advertising? I don't know. Or just being a lying hypocrite. Can you sue somebody for that? I don't know. I do know this. Remember, they're not stupid. They're just evil and crazy. And I guess if you can't beat them, then join them is where we're at now. So go figure. Go figure. Like I said, anybody else wants to give us a holler, 704-873-9929. All right, folks, we got the SAVE Act. Make sure I ain't running out of my time here. I got to watch. We got the SAVE Act coming up, and it's a federal voter bill that would require all Americans to provide photo ID when they go to vote and would require proof of citizenship in person when registering to vote. States are mandated to remove and also make states mandated to remove the Democrats, of course, are saying, and 70+% of people of color, black and brown, say this is a good idea. The Democrats are saying this is Jim Crow 2.0. They're saying that 80 million married women won't be able to vote because of their name change. This is a lie. It is a lie of the worst kind, because they'll look you right in the face and tell it, knowing that if you're already registered to vote, you just got to show up with your ID. And if you got to go down and change it, then all you got to do is take your marriage certificate if that's the problem. But if you're already married and you're already registered to vote, you just have to show up with an ID that says the same thing on your voter registration. This is not going to make you ineligible to vote. You do not all have to start from scratch. These are the things you do no matter what you do when your name is changed. You go to the courthouse. You go ahead and go to the Register of Deeds. You go to these things. You go and re-register to vote. That's one of the sacrifices. I guess if you don't want to take your husband's name, life will be a whole lot easier. Either which way, it's a lie when they tell you 80 million people will not be able to vote. That's not true. That is not true. But they love it. Right now, Republicans have 50 votes. They're going to need 60 to pass this since they took it out of an appropriation bill. If they would have left it in the appropriation bill along with the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, we'd be a whole lot better off, because then it would only take 51 to get it done. But they took it out at behest of trying to move along the appropriation bill, and so now it's out here by itself, and they're going to struggle to get 60 votes because the Democrats are pretty much in lockstep. They have been. They love to shut the government down. They love to cause turmoil. They love to do whatever it is they love to do, which is usually chaos. That's their brand. So they're going to keep doing this. But it's a lie when they tell you that you will not be able to vote because you got married. Remember that. So, and, Democrats right now have shut down part of the government. This time it's the Department of Homeland Security. Good news, ICE and Border Patrol are still going to get paid. Bad news is that TSA is not going to get paid. So if you think those people that were checking you at the airport were already half pissed, they're really mad now. I don't know what this means, but I'm sure you better give yourself plenty of time to get through your security checkpoints. I'm just saying. They think the Democrats are doing this so they can change the way ICE conducts business. It's kind of funny. Back in the Obama administration, Minneapolis police in their main headquarters had an office for ICE so that they could pick up the people when the police arrest them. Wonder what's changed in the last 15 years. Donald Trump, maybe? Yeah. All right, here we go. Part y'all like, I do too. Crazy as it gets, part 1. So Sheriff Gary McFadden came before the Gov Ops Committee last Monday and put on quite a show. He showed up dressed like Napoleon at Waterloo. I know, I shouldn't comment on other people's clothes, but I consider myself an expert witness in this situation. He then proceeded to show that what everyone else knows, he shouldn't be Mecklenburg County Sheriff for many reasons. He kind of got hung up on the 3 branches of government, or who knows what. All right, getting close to the end here. This might be the craziest of all. Part 3. Tim Walz has lost his dadgum mind. He blames the federal government for doing deep damage and generational trauma on the people of Minnesota. And they must pay for what they broke. Sorry, folks, this is not a gift shop. It hurt businesses, caused the economy to crash because of all the rioting, all the looting, all the destruction that the citizens of Minneapolis did in protest of ICE. truth be known, really wasn't much the citizens of Minneapolis. It was whoever that they could bring in, George Soros could pay. Or the crazy guy that's a big tech bazillionaire over in, I think, Vietnam or wherever he's at. So anyway, so they're wanting the federal government to come up with money so they can do a $10 million relief plan with forgivable loans. And you know, they're comparing this same thing to the horrors of COVID and what all the government had to do. So we owe them. We owe them. And this is after $9 billion worth of fraud uncovered in Minnesota so far. He still wants more of our tax dollars. Just think, he could have been one heartbeat away from running this country. Thank you, Lord, for sparing us. Dear Heavenly Father, dear Lord, we come to you. We bow our heads. We lift our hands. We thank you for watching over us in so many ways. And, Lord, you put the people in the places of authority, and we should give them some kind of respect. We should give them some kind of an ability to work together, not to be decisive. And, Lord, I pray upon our hearts and minds, you open us up to this and let us realize how great a country you've allowed for it to survive all these issues, all these problems. Lord, just give us wisdom, give us discernment. In Jesus Christ's name, amen. Folks, until next week, take care.
Thank you for tuning in to Taking Care of NC. We hope today's program offered valuable insight into the topics shaping North Carolina's future. Stay informed, stay engaged, and join us next time as we continue exploring the issues that matter most to our state. Until then, take care, and thank you for being a part of the conversation.
Real Country is 550 AM WAME, 92.9 W225BD, Statesville.
WAME and Bunce Johnson Funeral Home are proud to present our national anthem, Bunce Johnson, where every detail matters. Call them at 704-873-7223 or